Before our next programme, we're going over to the newsroom for a news flash from Michael Buerk.
An airliner with 118 passengers on board has crashed on the M1 motorway in Leicestershire. It came down near Kegworth, junction 24 of the motorway, just short of the East Midlands Airport. Eyewitnesses say it was coming into the airport with an engine on fire when it crashed into a motorway embankment. The aircraft's a British Midland DC-9, which was en route from Heathrow to Belfast before reporting engine trouble, and the captain asked to make an emergency landing at East Midlands Airport. There are reports of fatalities and of survivors, but no details about the casualties yet. 30 ambulances have been sent to the scene of the crash. A short while ago, an eyewitness described what happened.
A lot of noise, as if it was a backfire. Flames coming out of the port engine, very much nose up and wing down on the port side as if he was struggling for height. On the final approach, he got very close. They go out of sight just as they come into the final approach from where my house is situated. And at that point, the noise was very much curtailed. Normally we hear the noise continue for a little longer and then we hear the reverse thrust and you know that the plane is down on the runway. This didn't occur. We checked in on the emergency service frequency and we've had reports that there's debris on both carriageways of the M1. So it sounds as though the plane probably came down just before the M1.
A few minutes ago, I spoke to Alan Parker, who's the Chief Ambulance Officer for Leicestershire, and I asked him what he knew of what had happened.
At this stage, we're still receiving reports from the scene, but we understand it's a DC-9 with about 118 passengers on board that has come down just short of East Midlands Airport on the M1 motorway.
So are the casualties not just on the aircraft itself, but maybe on the motorway too?
That's a distinct possibility because it's landed on the motorway, but we're not sure at this stage. I certainly can't confirm whether there are ground casualties or not.
So you've got no idea yet of how many people might have been killed? How many people might have survived even?
We haven't at this stage, no. Obviously, we're very shortly into the incident and it's very busy up there at the stage.
What sort of operation is being mounted?
It's a very extensive operation. We have 30-plus ambulances and officers on the scene or on the way to the scene. And obviously the other emergency services are also in attendance.
From the reports you've got so far, this is clearly a major incident.
Without a doubt, yes.
BBC reporter Ian Woods is there. Ian, we know that there have been fatalities. We know that there have been survivors. Have you any indication of how many?
Well, we can tell you that there appear to have been at least 10 people killed. One priest I spoke to who's been touring the wreckage says that he's seen at least 10 people dead. There are a lot of survivors, but what is not clear is how many people are actually still on board the aircraft, which is now straddling a 30-feet-high embankment beside the motorway. The rescue services are still pulling people from the wreckage. A lot of them are survivors, but what is not clear, obviously, is how many people are still on board the aircraft who the rescue services for the time being because they are dead. We won't be able to bring you those sorts of statistics for quite a while, I should think. What appears to have happened is that the aircraft hasn't hit the motorway too badly. Looking across to the opposite side of the motorway, a lot of trees on the other side have been snapped in half by the aircraft, which means that it hasn't actually touched the carriageway itself too badly. It appears to have hit the embankment and is now lying in three pieces straddling this embankment.
Do you know that obviously there are casualties on the aeroplane, but do you know if any of the drivers on the motorway might have been involved at all in the crash?
I can't say for sure, but it appears unlikely that very many have been involved, if indeed any at the central reservation, the metal barriers in the central reservation appear to be more or less intact, which suggests to me, but this is purely speculation, that the bottom of the aircraft hasn't touched the motorway too badly. So there doesn't appear to be any wreckage here, which would suggest that cars or other vehicles have been involved.
Ian Woods, thank you very much indeed. Just to recap, a DC-9 of British Midland Airways has crashed on the M1 motorway near East Midlands Airport. There were 118 people on board. There are fatalities as well as survivors. More news on that crash in the main news on BBC One in 10 minutes' time at 10 o'clock.